Hello, happy Wednesday, my peaceful and profitable entrepreneurs. It is so good to see you. I'm very excited today to share this with you. This is just a fun conversation for me. I'm going into my 7th year of business, which is just to me unbelievable. So I'm ready to dive into that and really talk about a lot of that because I think it'll really support people. But first, some housekeeping items. If you jump on, say hi, leave a comment, leave a message. Anything will get you entered to win my free masterclass I'm giving away. It's 90 minutes, 4 ways to grow your business. So it's very robust. If you're a product or service based, like this is for you. It's just laying it out there on the table. It's something I always come back to with clients. So it's just a great overall thing. So we always give that away and it's just really fun. And then the next thing is next week we have our monthly masterclass and it's a strategic planning party. It is free. I will drop the link below. It's just something, it's what I do with my one-to-one clients. I do it myself. But I've always gotten tons of great feedback from it. People will say, no one has ever asked me that before, or I've never thought of that before. So it's just a really great thing to think about in your business. And I know some people have not done strategic planning or thought about their New Year's goals or anything like that. So this is just a great way to kind of like kickstart that. And some people maybe that did at the very beginning of the month are already losing momentum, feeling deflated, just not keeping up the way that they thought they would be already. So this is just a great way to kind of jump back in and get support with that. And it's free. You get a video and a workbook every day. It's 5 days. It's short and sweet. So it's really beneficial. I'm doing it with y'all. So that's it. But you know what I want to talk about today, I'm pulling up my notes. I titled this My Secrets for Building a Multi-6-Figure Business While Having and Raising 3 Daughters. Lessons from my past 7 years. So there's a lot of things that come up for me right now. Like my youngest just turned 4, so we don't have toddlers in our house anymore. You know, we are getting rid of stuff that we haven't used in a while that's just not applicable anymore. And it's like a big deal for me. You know, I'm like processing all the things and thinking about that in terms of business. And, you know, 7 years ago, it never occurred to me that I would be here doing this or doing live streams or supporting so many amazing clients. And like I work from home on my own schedule and I make way more money than I ever did working for someone else full time. And it blows my mind and I'm just so grateful. And I want to share and be so transparent because while I do love the online space and think that it is amazing for us to cultivate a business like this, it is kind of a mindfuck sometimes. We can get really caught up in the wrong things. There's always someone selling us something, and we think we need to do certain things or that our business should look a certain way or we're doing it wrong or whatever. So I really wanted to do this today to really like motivate you, to inspire you, to give you permission, like just see like behind the scenes of what building, you know, a multi-6-figure business looks like with 3 kids. Cause I started it, my oldest was 5 months old. When I took on my first client, so I started when she was 2 weeks old, but I put in my notice for where I was working and, you know, finished out the year there. And then January was when I started getting clients and I'm having like a 7-year anniversary with a few of my clients now because we've literally been together for 7 years. So it's just been amazing, but I didn't grow as fast as I could have. And I made mistakes along the way and invested in things that didn't really get me a return on stuff. And so I really want to just bring all that here and share that with you. And if you're joining, please ask questions. Feel free to comment. That's what I'm here for. So that's what kind of spurred this conversation. 7 years, 7 lessons, and I have a bonus because just, you know, of course, why not? So that's what I wanted to talk about. And I always think of the quote, the road to success is always under construction. And I feel like that just sums me up and sums up my business. It's always under construction. Like I'm never there. I've never made it. You know, I've never arrived. And that's not like a bad thing. It's just like, I love this continual growth. I love being open and willing to try new things and, you know, leaning into what feels good and just kind of seeing where that takes me. And so I think having that quote as kind of like the, you know, theme of my business has just been really helpful. I don't know who the quote came from, but really just giving ourselves permission to grow and change and make mistakes and be humans working with other humans, because otherwise it's just, you know, very stressful. And speaking of stressful, I mean, when I quit my job, like the HR lady, I told her I was quitting and she was like, what are you going to do for money? And I was like, I'm going to start my own business. She was like, what are you going to do for money? And I was like, I'm starting my own business. Like, it was scary as shit. Like, I literally would cry and think, like, what have I done? Like, oh my gosh, I jumped in feet first. My husband had a job. He was working. We weren't, you know, he didn't have a lot of money. I didn't buy clothes. I got our groceries from Walmart. You know, I bought their kids' clothes used and, you know, on the mom exchanges on Facebook. And, you know, we really didn't save any money for a few years. And like, it was tight, you know, but we had a roof over our head, we had food, we had the necessities. So I'm not like we were doing good compared to a lot of people, but it wasn't like, oh, this luxurious life. And I was working, you know, night times and nap times and at 4 a.m. and all these things to make it work. And I'm so grateful to my previous self for that, because like we're in January now and this is our busiest month of the year. Like this is, you know, 1099s, year end, all that stuff. And it feels very easeful. Like we have great systems and processes in place. We're onboarding 2 new clients this month at the same time as busy season. Like, and I feel really good. Like we're good. I mean, it's busy, but like it feels very easeful. It feels flowy. And so I'm just really glad to be in this place and share it with y'all. So we're going to hop in. Let's see. Let me look at my notes. Anything else I want to say? And I definitely have had to change my identity along the way because, you know, before I started my business, I had done public accounting. I had been in industry as a CPA. And so switching to bookkeeping was definitely different than I did just bookkeeping for 5 years, and then kind of had to change my identity of, you know, stepping out from behind the QuickBooks and behind the reports and behind the numbers to really like talking with people and, seeing what's coming up for them in their business and really like ideating together and problem solving instead of just being like, okay, yeah, here's your reports. Don't, you know, call me if you have some questions, but like, I'm out of it. I'm done. So this is like, I'm really in it with them, which is amazing and it just feels great, but it's also been an identity shift. So that is also something to think about as you move through your business. So kind of the number one piece of this, or we got 7, but the first one that comes to mind is really getting support. So the first 5 years were all by myself, getting up at 4 a.m. and it never occurred to me to get help. You know, eventually when my daughters were like, I had 2 under 2 for a while, and, you know, I did get support in daycare. So one went to daycare and the other stayed home. And then eventually they both went to daycare. Then they were both in daycare when I had my third, and then she was home for 2 years. COVID hit, so it kind of messed up, but she went like a little over age 2. But, you know, I was kind of all like doing everything myself. And like I had this very scarcity mindset that I needed to keep every penny of my business. So it didn't occur to me to get support or to get like a babysitter to come to my house because I wanted to keep every penny. And now that like we have the bookkeepers, we have the website girl, we have a social media person who puts all the posts out there and schedules it. And I get one-to-one support in my business because I believe in it so much. And it just feels so much better. And that is why it flows this month. Like I know that I, you know, built these systems and I've paid for, you know, ease. Like it's like, and it's like, I'm still taking home way more than I did when I did it all myself. So that's just something interesting to look at, because I know a lot of us, you know, when we start a business, like we are watching those pennies and dollars, and like we do not want to spend anything we don't have to, and then realizing that like it's okay to get support, because then that leads you to do more of the revenue generating activity. So yes, pay or net income might take a dip, but then you reach kind of that tipping point where the momentum builds, and then all those expenses stay the same, but you are able to go generate more revenue and have more take home pay because you have that foundation. And so that's just something I've seen. And if I had to change anything, I would go back to my previous self and just get support earlier. What that looked like for me was I did a group program when I switched to the advisory services, and that served its purpose. It kind of taught me how to make that transition, what it kind of looked like, what you kind of did in those meetings, what you were just literally, what are you doing with clients, and then kind of the process of what that looked like. So that was just great to have. And then I did a small master class or small mastermind, and that was, these things were expensive. Like the group program was like $9,000. The mastermind was like over $1,000 a month, and that was just with a small group of people. So now I pay for a coach, and it's basically the equivalent of those, but it's one-to-one. Like I have support, like just anything like, mindset stuff that comes up for me, like working through that scarcity stuff, or, like, is it okay to sell to this mom that's divorced? And it brings up, memories of like my parents and stuff, and like just working through that stuff has been like what I can, work through to get out there and sell and really support my clients better, because it doesn't help them any if I'm too scared to sell to them or shit's getting kicked up for me or whatever. So that's really like what I say. Like, you don't have to reach a certain point in business to deserve support. I know a lot of people think that like, oh, I have to be at a certain revenue or I have to be at a certain client load or something. And, I'm not telling anyone what to do with their money, but like, you'll get there faster if you have support. Like, that's just what I've seen countless after supporting, countless clients. Like, that is just what I have seen to be true. And it's like, okay, you don't have to get support. You can wait until you get to that client load or revenue number or whatever feels safe to you, but like, you're just slowing the whole thing down. And that is not bad. Slower and faster, not one is good over the other, but for someone like me who like, we need my revenue, we need my income to contribute to our family. Getting there faster is something that's important to me. And so I've realized that like, I make more revenue because I pay these people and because I get support. So that's just really the first thing to lean into. And then, the second thing is being busy isn't the same as being productive. Working with kids at home, I worked nap times and night times, and I was very focused. And I feel like that was probably a good thing, just from coming from the corporate world to like the more unstructured, like I can do it in my own time when I want to or whatever. But because I had such time restrictions, I was laser focused on what I needed to do and staying on top of it. It wasn't just like, oh, I have this, huge capacity to just like work all day long. It was like, no, it's literally between this time and this time, this time and this time and this time. And now it's like, it looks like between 9 and 2, because that's the parameters I have. I drop off my kids in the morning. I'll volunteer at their school, take the dog for a walk. I pick them up in the afternoon. We are doing things in the afternoon. Like I sit down at my computer when they go to bed, that's usually around 7, and like catch up on what the bookkeepers need from me or, anyone else. But that's basically like my parameters for work. And so it's really like looking at using time blocking and making sure that like these 3 things happen every day, regardless of what hits the fan. Knowing what my plan is. And so, I talk about the 3 S's, like support, social, and sell. So even if, my kids are sick and I have to pick them up from school, I'm still supporting clients in some capacity. I'm still showing up on social consistently, and I'm still selling somewhere. So those are the 3 things that happen every day. So really time blocking, I give people a spreadsheet just as an example, and it's very granular, and you can take that to start. And then if you get in a nice flow and you're like, okay, on Mondays I do this. For me, that looks like money and metrics. Like Monday's kind of my CEO day, and preparing for my meetings for the week to support clients. So I'm always looking at my money, looking at my metrics, and then preparing reports and all that. Fridays kind of follow up, like my getting everything I need from everybody, supporting clients and meetings Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like I have it kind of this flow. So it's not like super like hour by hour, but I kind of have a puzzle piece that I move around. So I have really enjoyed time blocking for that and just giving myself like a framework of what happens when, because if you have to decide what you're going to work on, it's so much harder. But if like, yeah, I'm going to get to emails today at 2, that gives you the freedom to go out and do these other things. So, my time is accounted for. I don't want to fatigue on decisions. I work out at 5 a.m. every morning. So that is like one of those decisions I just put on autopilot. Like, it's not like when am I going to work out today? It's literally like, this happens at 5. You know, I'm doing social at this time during the day. I'm supporting clients this time during the day. So it's all fits together so that I know what's going on and I don't have to think about it in the moment. So that's just something that has worked really well for me. And also when you have a big project, like if you have a project that's going to take 4 hours or something like that, you know, you're probably not going to have a block of time of 4 hours that just opens up. So that's why I really love to have the time blocking, so you can be like, okay, you know, maybe 1 hour a day I'm breaking this up, or 1 hour a week, like whatever that looks like. I know we have got some people jumping on. So if you jump on, say hi, leave your questions, comments. I'm really excited to have you here. But that's kind of how I look at my schedule and how I organize everything and really make sure that things happen and not have decision fatigue. So the third thing that I've learned in the past 7 years is setting boundaries. I had to get really clear about when I do work and when I don't work, because when the girls were babies, that kind of like moved and the boundaries kind of overlapped, and it was very stressful and I felt very monkey-brained. I'm so glad that I read the book Hands-Free Mama when they were babies. So it was really about like being intentional with like your phone time and your, you know, devices. Hi, Annis. Thanks for liking my stuff. So that book was just really helpful to give my, like, make me realize that like when I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. And then when I'm working, I'm working. And so that was what really helped me like set up my time so that it wasn't like, well, let me kind of message these clients and then go back to my kids and then try to do this, because that was just too overwhelming and didn't feel good. So I definitely had blocks of time. And even still, you know, like I support clients in Voxer and, you know, all these kind of things in between our meetings. So I try to be really intentional about like, these are the times that I check it. You know, when I pick the kids up from school, I'm basically not checking any of that stuff until nighttime. You know, I'm not trying to like hop on the computer and do work or, you know, anything. It's like that time is with them and just making sure that like I set those boundaries. And it's also just comes up with when you're onboarding new clients, like what kind of boundaries do you set with them? Or people who buy from you, you know, what can they expect the turnaround time to be? Or just letting people know up front, like what they can expect from you and when, and setting the tone has just been really helpful. Because then it's not like, oh, they're texting you and it's dinner time and I feel like I'm supposed to respond. Like that just doesn't happen. And so that's been a really helpful way to set boundaries in my business and with team members, you know, letting them know like they can expect a response from me within this time. And, you know, I always let clients know, like, if I don't respond in 24 hours, I missed it. So follow up again. So that way they know like when to expect something. So that's the third one, setting boundaries. Number 4 is run my own race. So I have built my business while having 3 kids. So everything looked different for me, you know, from how much work I took on, from my marketing or lack thereof, and now even how I get my continuing education. Like I'm a CPA, so I have to do 40 hours a year. It's literally 1 hour at a time. Maybe I'll do a continuing education that's like 1.5 hours, but it's pretty much done 1 hour at a time. And I could make myself wrong for all of this. I could be like, oh, these other people are working so much more, or they've got such bigger results or faster results or whatever. But really running my own race and being okay with that was just, it takes the stress out. My husband's coming home for lunch, so I was like, what are you doing in there? I'm like, talking to my people. But I think running your own race is so important because especially as a lot of us moms or wives and spouses and all that stuff, like it's just, if we look at what other people are doing or what their business looks like, it can be really hard and we make ourselves wrong. And so, you know, just making sure that I kind of keep my eyes on my own paper and celebrate other people and what they're doing and wow, isn't that great? Like what potential is out there. But really like running my own race, especially and with marketing, like I'm not going to be able to be online all the time. Like we create the content and then the social media manager posts it. And, you know, it's not me like on there all the time, like scheduling everything. Like we have a system for it and I just set it and forget it. Like for lack of a better word, you know, it's not like totally forget it, but I'm not always going back and like trying to rework it or trying to find the next problem. It's just like, we got it. It's good. We'll let it build momentum and we'll let it do its thing. So that's like part of that running my own race. Let's see. I had some notes. It's easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing, and I'm all about building a business that is intentional and sustainable for you. As women, it's just we have so many other things going on, and I think it's so important for us to have our own money and be in charge of our own money and our own finances, and whatever that looks like for you. But like, we're the ones who are putting it back in the communities. You know, we're the ones sending the kids to camp and, you know, deciding where to buy our groceries and, you know, teacher gifts, where to get those. And so we put so much money back in for childcare, healthcare, building the community. It's just really important that we have our own money, at least for me. And so, you know, having that perspective, just making sure that this is a business and that your business is something that provides for you for years to come, not just for you and your family, but just for the community as a whole, because that is what builds the community. And so that's kind of like the other piece that I like to think on. Like, it's not just like, hey, how do we make the most amount of money in the least amount of time? Like, how do we build a business that we love and we love being the owner of, and that, you know, maybe gives other people jobs and, you know, provides income so that we can help our community and save for our retirement and kids' colleges and all that stuff. So, you know, part of that running my own race is building that business that is intentional and works for me, because that is what's going to keep me in it for the long run. So we're on number 5. Let me know if you have questions or anything. And number 5 kind of comes into the strategic planning party this month. It's really taking time to reassess. I'm all about picking a strategy and sticking to it, but sometimes we just get on autopilot and we start doing things one way and we forget why we started doing it that way. So I like to do the annual goals and reassess each year. I think it's a great time to do this. And, you know, I used to do kind of these bigger goals with like a longer time frame, and I still do kind of like a 1, 3, and 5 year. Just, I like having the long-term vision, not necessarily like goals, but when we take time to reassess more often, you know, I like doing it, like looking at each month and then looking at the previous quarter and the quarter going forward. When we have those more frequent touch points, that's when we can like make more simple adjustments. Whereas if we just keep going for a really long time and then it's like, oh, we gotta like make an adjustment or turn the ship, it's a lot harder. Whereas if we keep doing it along the way, it's kind of easier to navigate. So taking time is really, really important to me. Doing the quarterly goals, keeping up with them along the way. And that's something we do with our team members. So, you know, most our bookkeepers have been with me over a year now. And so quarterly meetings are good for us. Like, we check in and we're, you know, talking about the work that needs to be done and all this stuff frequently, but really doing like a quarterly check-in, like, okay, like, let's see, you know, what went well, what are your goals for the next quarter, because I want them to grow as people too. Obviously, I want them to just stay with me forever and ever, but like, I want to make sure that they're getting their needs met too, and that it's serving them just as much as me. Sorry, my voicemail is like sitting right there. So I think really taking time to reassess and remember like why we're doing things. And it's also a great time to reassess, like, do I need to be the one doing this? Because when we start our business, we wear all the hats. We're the IT person, we're the website person, we're the social media person, we're the sales person, we're the bookkeeper, like whatever. Like, we do so many things. And it's just nice to eventually be like, wait, can somebody else do this? Do we need to keep doing it this way? Do we need to do this at all? You know, something that I switched to my business that's a great example is billing. So every month I would send an invoice and then the client would pay it. And so that was time I had to take at the beginning of every month, was sending these invoices. And I looked at hiring a VA to send these out. And then I was like, well, why don't I just get everyone on auto pay to do it? And it just runs itself. So that's what we did. Of course, I had resistance kick up in my head around that, about like, are the clients going to want to do that? Are they going to want to sign the form? Like, ooh, is that kind of like overstepping the boundaries? But really what I found, that people were like, yes, please, like, not like, why didn't you do this earlier? But they were like, yeah, sign me up. Because it's just one less thing for everyone to think about. So just looking at your systems and processes, and when you're going through your day, when you find yourself working on something that you're kind of like getting resistance kicked up, or you're kind of like, oh, this is not my favorite part of the day, like just taking a moment to step back and be like, could I do this differently? Could someone else do this? Could we cut this out entirely? Like just taking the time to reassess along the way is just so helpful. Sorry, my mother-in-law's texting and calling. I think everything is okay though. But let's see, number 6. This is one of my favorites, and something I lean into a lot with myself and with clients is know what your business needs from you. So AKA solve the right problem. I just, after being in the online space, like there's just always someone who's going to sell you something. Like, I mean, I have people contact me all the time in DMs and emails, telling me like, hey, I looked at your website, you could really change this, this, and this. Or, you know, hey, your Instagram profile, I could really, you know, increase your followers by this. And I always like respond to them. And I'm like, actually, I'm like a multi-6-figure business and I'm basically almost full. So I think I'm doing pretty good. You know, not to be like a jerk, but I'm like, yeah, I could do all those things, but you know, I'm looking at the things that are working and I'm focusing on that. Like if I tried to solve every problem in my business, like I would spend so much money and so much time and it may not get me any other results. Something that comes up for me is the first 5 years of my business, I had a homemade website. Like my best friend from college literally made it. She did it herself. I didn't pay her anything. That was it. The pictures that I had, you know, were pictures that my sister took of me with the iPhone. When I did post on social media, it was like an iPhone picture I took of the sunset or something. Like I built 6 figures, you know, in 5 years with a homemade website and some iPhone pictures. So I get so like I love my new website. I love, you know, the branding photos that I have. I love those, but those aren't the reason that people hire me. And so what I really like to invite business owners and clients to do is really think about like, what is the problem you solve? Why are people hiring you? Like if it feels good to go pay $3,000 to refresh your website, yes, do it. You know, and if it's, especially if it's going to make it easier for people to purchase or book or do whatever, like, yes, I'm not saying not to do that, but don't think that that is like the thing that's going to like fix your business, or, you know, getting the branding photos or getting the expensive planner, or, you know, doing the class about TikToks or how to make reels or anything. Like that's all great and fun. And if you like it, go for it, but don't go into it thinking that like, that's the thing that you're missing. It's the secret. You got to have it. Like when you have that kind of graspy energy of like, this is the thing I'm missing. Oh my gosh, I have to do this. It's going to change everything. Like that is just not a good vibe to buy that stuff. So if it's like, yeah, you know, I deserve a nice website and I want it to look nice, like that is the vibe of getting the new website and getting the pictures done. But yeah, going into it, and people are always like, oh, but it's a tax deduction. And like, yes, true, but you know, it's not going to like decrease dollar for dollar your tax liability. So that $3,000 website refresh isn't going to decrease your tax liability for exactly $3,000. It'll be a percentage of that. So, you know, always buy what you actually need. Don't just buy things to like write it off. My favorite Schitt's Creek episode was about that, but really like knowing what your business needs from you and solving the right problem. And as the business owner, that is your job to know what your business needs from you. I always think about it like when my girls were babies and they'd cry, and it was, you know, I'm the mother. So like, I know what they need. You know, my mother-in-law or a well-meaning, you know, family member would be like, oh, give them a bottle or do this. And it's like, actually, they just ate. Actually, we're on this schedule. And so it was up to me to know what they needed and figure it out. And as business owners, it is up to us. It's not, you know, that person that sent you an email, a message that your website needs work, or that, you know, your social media account doesn't have more followers or whatever. It's really knowing like what's the right problem to solve, because our time and our resources are the most valuable thing we have, and, you know, money. So if we're like constantly giving our money and time to other people that have the answers, like our business is it's not gonna feel very good. And we're just wasting a lot of time and money that we could use to, you know, use it in better ways. So I think that's kind of one of my favorite ones. So let me know if y'all have questions. I know we had some more people pop on, but number 7, and this is a big one for me too that I've worked on, especially with my coach, is giving myself credit. So, just giving myself credit for how far I've come. And, at this point in my business, I've made $500,000 working part-time. And so that even I'm already skipping over that because I'm like, oh, that feels so crazy to say, but it's something I'm grateful for. And I have to remind myself to celebrate that. And just really giving ourselves credit for what we have done. And then even the past 2 years, I've made more than I did the first 5. And, of course I was having babies and had kids at home. And I'm just so grateful for my previous self to see what she went through and how tired I was and how crazy it was. I thought I was going to sit down and do work, but nap time's not happening. So now I'm going to have to do it tonight. And just all that I went through, not making myself wrong for that, but really celebrating, thank you, Jordan, because that's what allowed me to get here today. So, the first few years I doubled every year. It was still slow. It went from 10,000 to 20,000, but, just looking at that every year, and seeing that growth. Cause I think, we look at our business from month to month and then the annual thing, but it's nice to kind of look at it over the whole sum of how much money have you made since you've been in business? Or, these first 5 years when I was literally just getting referrals and literally from, QuickBooks Pro Advisor online, I wasn't doing anything, but I slowly was building my services and my packages, and doing it at home and doing it with kids and during a pandemic and lockdown. So I think just giving yourself so much credit, even keeping a journal, or thinking about one thing every day, what can I give myself credit for? Because, it's just so important to celebrate those wins. I mean, that's just something that we know from research on brains, just how simple our brains are. When we reach a goal, our brain wants to keep doing it. When we celebrate that goal, our brain's ooh, let's make more of that happen. So just from a very lizard brain basic standpoint, but also just from the fact that it doesn't have to be hard. It can be easeful. We can set up systems and we can pay people and make it easeful. It doesn't have to be this struggle all the time. So that's just been really permission giving and something that I've worked on personally. So that's kind of my number 7. And then the bonus, cause I have more than 7, but it kind of is the jumping off point from that one, is that giving up just was never an option. I give myself so much credit for that. And then during lockdown, I was talking to she's a mom at our gymnastics class, and she was working at home, and then she was lockdown hit and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was that never occurred to me. That never occurred to me, literally, not to close my doors ever. And so that's just something that I think is just so important for business owners to it's not oh, I'll wait till my business works, or I'll wait till it, shows me that it can make this amount of money or pay me this amount of money. But it's just I'm not waiting, I'm all in. It's kind of that burn the boat mentality. I'm going all in and this is working. What's his name? I think he's the drummer of Blink-182. Am I showing my age? But I read something interesting about him. He's covered in tattoos, and that was his way of making the musician life work, was that he covered himself in tattoos. So he was basically not hireable to anyone else, because he was I'm going to be a musician. I'm going all in. And that was his way of burning the boat. So obviously I think if people still work a job and want to do, build their own business on the side, it's not that's wrong, but just having that mentality that I'm in this and I'm willing to stay in it until it works. I'm not waiting for my business to show me that it works. I'm deciding ahead of time that it's working, and I'm in it. So that is my bonus kind of wrap up for all of this, is that just that giving up isn't an option. Oh, sorry, my throat. But I hope this has been helpful. Those are the 7 things I wanted to run through. they've just been really important to me. And, you know, even working with people who are new and starting their business or people who are seasoned, I really feel like this conversation is just so permission giving and just eye opening for people, because we don't realize like what other businesses are going through. Like we see like, oh, you know, built a multi six-figure business working part-time, like it must be so easy. And it's like, you know, there was a lot of stuff I learned along the way and things that maybe I would have done different, and, you know, lessons to be learned and shared. And so I really like to just kind of lay it out there on the table and go through those, you know, like one, getting support. Two, you know, making sure that like being busy isn't being productive, like being really intentional with your time, setting boundaries with clients, with team members, even with yourself, like when you're available and when you're not. Running your own race and not making yourself wrong, taking time to reassess, and then making sure you know what your business needs from you, aka solve the right problem. Give yourself credit, give yourself tons of credit, and just know that giving up isn't an option. Know that you are in it until, and you know, willing to do whatever it takes. So those are the 7 takeaways. And if you're sitting here and you're like, Jordan, that always sounds great and easy, but like I'm in it, I'm doing the things, I'm not getting the results. It's really hard to keep doing the things when I'm not getting the results. Or you're like, I don't even know where to start. Like I'm trying to get my first clients. Like you're talking about doubling revenue and I just want to get some revenue. I totally understand. And you know, the thing that I always talk about is consistent content. So consistently showing up in front of your audience, showing up in front of other audience and selling. Like we specifically have to connect the dots for people to buy from us. And so that's something I'm always working with clients on and that I love supporting in these free calls. I give free consistent content for consistent 5-figure months, because literally in my business, that's when I saw the change, was when I started showing up daily, you know, in whatever consistency that looks like for you. Like I would love to support you in a free 30-minute call. That's what we work on together. We can set up a framework for what works for you, what you're speaking about, where you're showing up, kind of laying out all the logistics so that it's just really easy for you to take that and go take action on it, because that is the thing that I've seen move the needle forward. It's not, oh, redo the website or get some more pictures or get a new planner. Like it's literally like show up in front of people who can buy from you. It sounds so simple, but it's literally kind of the thing. So I'll drop the link for that below. We'll be back next week. The masterclass will be Monday through Friday. So I'll be popping in then to the group. So I can't wait to see you there, and have a great rest of your week.